Hi everyone, I'm reading part 2 of There's a Boy in the Girls' Bathroom, and again I'll read for about 15 minutes. Okay, hope you enjoy the story still. He stayed in his room until Claudia told him that he had to come to dinner. He followed her out to the dining room where his mother and father were already sitting down. "Did you wash your hands?" asked their father. "Yes," Bradley and Claudia lied. Bradley's father worked in the police department. He had been shot in the leg 4 years ago while chasing a robber. Now he needed a cane to walk, so he worked behind a desk. He didn't like that kind of work and often came home grumpy and short-tempered. The police never caught the man who'd shot him. "I hate fish," Bradley said as he sat down. "So do I," said Claudia. "Sticks to my braces and I taste it for weeks." "Brussels sprouts make me throw up," said Bradley. "They smell like old garbage," said Claudia. "That's enough," said their father. "You'll both eat what's on your plates." Bradley held his nose with one hand while he picked up a Brussels sprout with the other and put it, whole, into his mouth. "What's all that nonsense about your mother breaking her promise?" asked his father. Bradley was all ready. "She promised to take me to the zoo tomorrow, and now she won't." "What?" exclaimed his mother. "I never said I'd take you to the zoo." "She did too," said Bradley. "Since there is no school tomorrow, she said she'd take me to the zoo." "I didn't even know there was no school tomorrow until his teacher called me this afternoon," his mother protested. "You promised," said Bradley. "Okay," said his father. "Janet, what time is your appointment tomorrow with Bradley's teacher?" 11 o'clock. "Okay. You can go to your appointments and still have time to take Bradley to the zoo after lunch." "But I never said I'd take him to the zoo." "You did," accused Bradley. "And we have to go in the morning. We have to be at the zoo at 11 o'clock. Claudia snickered. "Why do you have to be at the zoo at 11 o'clock? He glared at her, then turned back to his father. "Because that's when they feed the lions." Claudia laughed. "She promised she'd take me to see them feed the lions at 11 o'clock, Bradley insisted. His mother was flabbergasted. I don't even know when they feed the lions." 11 o'clock, said Bradley. "Don't lie to your mother," said his father. "Really?" said Bradley. "They feed the lions at 11 o'clock. "I don't tolerate lying," said his father. "Not lying," said Bradley. "Call the zoo if you don't believe me." "Don't lie to your mother and don't lie to me. Call the zoo. Your mother said she never promised to take you to the zoo. She's lying." Right after he said it, he knew it was a mistake. His father turned purple with rage. "Don't ever call your mother a liar. Now go to your room." "Just call the zoo," Bradley pleaded. "Maybe I did tell him I'd take him to the zoo," said his mother. "See," said Bradley. "Keep it up, Bradley," said his father. "Just keep it up. You want to be a criminal when you grow up? You want to spend your life in jail? I see people like you just every day at the police station. Keep it up, Bradley." Bradley stared angrily at his father. "Not all criminals go to jail," he asserted. "What about the man who shot you?" "I said go to your room." Bradley stood up from the table. "I didn't want to eat this junk anyway." He stomped down the hall into his room and slammed the door. Then he opened it and shouted, "Call the zoo," one last time, then slammed it again. He lay on his bed and cried. "Don't cry, Bradley," said Ronnie. "Everything will be all right." "You'll think of something," Bradley said Bartholomew. "You always do. You're the smartest kid in the world." Chapter 4. Bradley stood at the front door and hollered, "Mrs. Ebel is a liar. Don't believe anything she tells you." Bradley's mother got into the car, gritted her teeth, and drove to school. She was just as afraid as Bradley, if not more so, of what Mrs. Ebel would tell her. She wanted to believe Bradley when he told her he was getting all A's or was elected as class president. She tried to fool herself that if it could be true, even though she knew it couldn't, she knew her son, and she knew Mrs. Ebel wouldn't wouldn't take the trouble to call her on the phone if everything was really as wonderful as Bradley said it was. Still, she hoped. She opened the door to Bradley's classroom. No one was there. "Hello?" she called out. She looked around. There was a bulletin board covered with A papers. She looked from one paper to another and hoped with all her heart that she'd see one with Bradley's name on it. She didn't. In the back of the room, she saw a chart that listed the name of every student in the class. Next to each name was a row of gold stars. Next to Bradley Chalkers, there were no stars. Mrs. Chalkers. Startled, she turned around to see Mrs. Ebel. "Oh, you scared me," she said, then smiled. Mrs. Ebel didn't smile. Mrs. Chalkers sat at the chair next to the teacher's desk and bravely listened as Mrs. Ebel told her about Bradley. There was nothing Mrs. Ebel said that she didn't already know. Still, it hurt to hear it. Deep down, he really is a good boy, she tried to tell Bradley's teacher. "I'm sure he has a lot of good qualities," said Mrs. Ebel. "However, I have 28 other children in my class, and I can't spend all my time trying to help Bradley. He has to decide whether he wants to be part of the class or not, and if he doesn't want to be part of the class, then he shouldn't be here. It just makes it much harder for everyone else." "What can I do?" asked Bradley's mother. "Look, the school has just hired a counsellor," said Mrs. Ebel. "I'd like your permission for Bradley to begin seeing her once a week." "Anything that will help my son," said Mrs. Chalkers. "I don't know if she can help him or not," said Mrs. Ebel. "Bradley has a very serious behaviour problem. If he doesn't show improvement soon, more drastic measures soon will have to take place. Deep down, he really is a good boy," said Bradley's mother. "Well, let's go to meet the counsellor," said Mrs. Ebel. She led Bradley's mother down the halls to the counsellor's office. The door was open, but no one was there. Bradley's mother stepped into the room. Boxes were everywhere. Some were turned over with their contents half spilled onto the floor. A yellow ladder lay on its side. In the centre of the room was a round table surrounded by chairs, but the table and chairs were covered with papers and boxes and games and books. There was hardly room for Bradley's mother and teacher to stand. "She's just moving in," Mrs. Ebel explained. "I'm sure she'll have it cleaned up tomorrow." Mrs. Chalkers shrugged. She picked up a dolphin puppet from an open box on the table, put her hand inside it. Suddenly there was a loud grunt and a young woman entered the room. She dropped the box she was carrying, and more than 100 crayons spilled across the floor. "Oh, hello," she said. She was a lot younger than either Mrs. Ebel or Mrs. Chalkers. She wore blue jeans and a red t-shirt with rock and roll written across it in light blue letters. She had light brown hair, almost blonde, and clear blue eyes. "I'm Carla Davis," she said, and held out her hand. Bradley's mother stared at her for a moment and reached out to shake her hand, but suddenly realised she was still wearing the dolphin puppet. She quickly removed it and put it back in the box on the table. The counsellor smiled. "She needs to sign the form so that you can start seeing her son," she said, Mrs. Ebel. Miss Davis looked hopelessly around at her office. "They're around here somewhere," she muttered, and began tearing into the boxes. "Perhaps I'd better come back," said Bradley's mother. "Found them," said the counsellor, holding up the forms. She cleared a space on the round table by pushing away a box and gave Mrs. Chalkers a form to sign. Bradley's mother looked around the messy office, then at the young woman with the rock and roll t-shirt. She shrugged her shoulders and signed her name. Miss Davis took the form from her. "Oh, you're Bradley Chalkers, mother." Mrs. Chalkers nodded. "You wouldn't believe all the horror stories I've heard about Bradley Chalkers," said the new counsellor. "I've been here less than 3 hours and it seems like every teacher in the school has dropped by to warn me about him." "Deep down, he really is," Bradley's mother started to say. I can't wait to meet him, the counsellor interrupted. He sounds charming, just wonderful. Chapter 5. At dinner, Bradley's father asked how the meeting with Bradley's teacher went. Bradley looked down at his mashed potatoes. Fine, said his mother. Bradley's doing very well. Good, glad to hear it, said his father. Bradley was glad to hear it too. Later that evening, his mother came into the room. I met Miss Davis, the new counsellor, she said. You're going to begin seeing her tomorrow. No, said Bradley, I won't go. Please, Bradley, don't be that way. She can help you if you'll let her. I don't need any help. You said I was doing very well. Did you want me to tell your father the truth? Do you want to be sent to that military school? Maybe he's right, I don't know. Maybe that's what you need. You said I was doing very well, I heard you. Please, Bradley, said his mother. Give Miss Davis a chance. Please. You should have taken me to the zoo. It was drizzling the next morning as Bradley walked to school. He wore red rubber boots and a yellow raincoat. He stamped in every puddle along the way, making big splashes. Suddenly he stopped when he saw Jeff standing next to the school under the overhang. Bradley's right foot remained in the centre of a puddle as he started to speak to his friend. He took a deep breath and slowly walked towards Jeff. He has to like me, he tried to convince himself. I gave him $1. Hi, Bradley, Jeff greeted him. He didn't answer. If you want, I can help you with your homework sometimes, Jeff offered. I know I'm new here, but I'm pretty smart, and we learned the same stuff at my old school, he shrugged modestly. Bradley looked at Jeff as if he were from outer space. I don't need any help, he said. I'm the smartest kid in the class. Ask anyone. They headed for Mrs. Ebble's room, side by side, but not necessarily together. Chapter 6. Jeff Fishkin was hopelessly lost. He clutched his hall pass as he looked down along the long, empty corridor. The school seemed so big to him. He was on his way to see the new counsellor. She was supposed to help him to adjust to his new environment. Now, he not only didn't know how to get to her office, he had no idea how to get to Mrs. Ebble's class either. The floor was slippery, it had started raining during recess, and the kids had tracked water and mud inside them. A teacher carrying a stack of peppers stepped out of the door, and Jeff hurried up to her. Can you tell me where the new counsellor's office is, please? He asked. His voice trembled. The teacher first checked to make sure he had a hall pass. Then she said, the counsellor's office. Let's see. Go down this hall to the end, turn right, and it's on the third door on the left. Thank you very much, said Jeff. He started to go. No, wait, said the teacher. That's not right. She's in the new office in the other wing. Actually, turn around, go back to the way you just came, then turn left at the end of the hall, and it's the second door on your right. Thank you, said Jeff again. He walked to the end of the hall, turned right, counted to the second door on his left, and pushed it open. A girl with red hair and a freckled face was washing her hands at the sink. When Jeff saw, her mouth dropped open. What are you doing in here? She asked. Jeff uttered. Get out of here! This is the girls' bathroom. Jeff froze. He covered his face in his hands, then dashed out the door. There's a boy in the girls' bathroom, the girl screamed after all. He raced down the hall. Suddenly his feet slipped out from under him. He waved his arms wildly as he tried to keep his balance, then flopped onto the floor. Oh, no, 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 he groaned. What have I done? Oh, why didn't I just read the sign on the door? This is the worst day of my whole life. Suddenly he realised he was no longer holding the hall pass. He stood up and frantically looked around him. Don't tell me I dropped it in the girls' bathroom. He heard someone coming and hurried off in the opposite direction. He rounded the corner, then spotted what looked like some kind of storage room. It was cluttered with boxes. He ducked inside and closed the door behind him. Hello, said a voice. He spun round. A woman stepped down off a yellow ladder. You must be Jeff, she said. I'm Carla Davis. She smiled and held out her hand. I'm so glad you've come. I was afraid you might get lost. Chapter 7. Jeff sat at the round table. The counsellors sat across him. So, how do you like Red Hill School? She asked. He stared straight ahead. There's a boy in the girls' bathroom, echoed inside his head. I imagine it must seem a little scary, said the counsellor. He didn't answer. I think it's scary, she said. It seems so big. Any time I try to go anywhere, I get lost. He smiled weakly. It's hard for me because I'm new here, she explained. Today's only my second day of school. I don't know anybody. Nobody knows me. The other teachers all look at me strangely. It's hard for me to make friends with them. They already have their own friends. I know what you mean, Jeff said. Maybe you can help me, said the counsellor. Me, said Jeff. How can I help you? I'm the one who needs help. Well, maybe we can help each other. What do you think about that? How? We're the two new kids at school, she said. We can share our experiences and learn from each other. Jeff smiled. Okay, Miss Davis, he said. Jeff, he said, if we're going to be friends, I want you to call me Carla, not Mrs. Davis. He laughed. Do you think Carla's a funny name? Oh no, it's just never called a teacher by their first name, that's all. But we're friends. Friends don't call each other Miss Davis and Mr. Fishkin, do they? Jeff laughed again. No, he said, then he frowned. The kids in my class call me Fishface. Have you made any friends? Asked Carla. Sort of made one friend, said Jeff, but I don't like him. How can he be your friend if you don't like him? Nobody likes him. First I felt sorry for him because nobody wanted to sit next to him. Mrs. Edwards said it out loud right in front of the whole class. Nobody likes sitting there, she said. It was like he wasn't even there. It's bad enough when a kid says something like that, but a teacher? He must have hurt his feelings, said Carla. No, he just smiled. He may have been smiling on the outside, but do you think he was really smiling on the inside? I don't know, I guess not. I guess that's why I tried to be friends with him. I told him I liked sitting next to him, but then he said, give me $1 or I'll spit on you. What did you do? I gave him $1. I don't want him to spit on me. But then later he said, I'll give you $1 to be my friend. So I took it. It was my $1. So does that mean I have to be his friend? Even though I broke even? What do you think friendship is? Carla asked him. I don't know. I mean, I know what it is, but I can't explain it. Is it something you can buy and sell? Can you go to the store and get a quart of milk, a dozen eggs, and a friend? Jeff, no. So does that mean I don't have any friends with him? Does that mean I don't have to be? I won't tell you what to do, said Carla. All I can do is help you think for yourself. I don't even know if Bradley wants to be my friend, said Jeff. Today, at recess, we hung around together, but we didn't do anything. He acted like I wasn't there. Then it started to rain. He ran around trying to push little kids into the mud. Could you share your feelings with him? Asked Carla. That's the real way to build a friendship, by talking and being honest and by sharing your feelings. Like the way we're talking and being honest with each other now. That's why we're friends. But Bradley's different than you and me, said Jeff. I think you'll find that if you're nice to Bradley, he'll be nice to you. If you're honest and friendly with him, he'll be honest and friendly with you. It's just like with the $1. You always break even. Jeff smiled. Are you going to see Bradley too? He asked. Yes, later today. Do you think you'll be able to help him? I don't know. I hope so. I think he needs help even more than me. You won't tell him anything I said, will you? No, that's one of the most important rules. I never repeat anything anyone tells me here around the table. Never. She shook her head. What about to the other teachers? She shook it again. What about to the principal? No. Okay, said Jeff. He took a breath. Here goes. On the way here, I got a little lost and accidentally went into the girls' bathroom. He covered his face with his hands. The end of chapter 7. Until next week.